Hello. Hi, it's Debbie. I wanted to get on here today and talk about the term grief specialist because it had come up before, and in the group, in the Facebook group, and I thought it was a really great idea, or a great post, because what do we mean by that? So I know that two people answered. Thank you for that. Um, which was, basically people who have been trained in grief, but training for to work in grief, to do grief therapy, grief counseling, grief companioning, is that it needs we require. Actually, unfortunately, it's not a requirement. That's the problem. Um, that's the problem, is that there is no standardization of what should be included in grief training or not, or how long it should be, or what credentials the person should have or not. So I wanted to give you some ideas of things to think about when you're picking out a training program. And I'll also mention that there's a lot of certification programs that are popping up now, over and over and over again. And certification, we usually seek certification because it gives us professionally something, at a level um, of specialization or a level of skill that stands us apart from other people. Frankly, actually, again, I just so advocate for you to go get training in grief in a number of different from a number of different perspectives, because there's so many now, which actually is kind of a really cool thing, I have to say. When I first started doing this in 94, a little bit before that, um, there there were very few trainings at all. There were very few grief books. In fact, actually, I still remember going to the bookstore and honestly, there was one shelf for all the grief books. It was crazy. Now, now there's books and books and books and books. So I'm gonna move this. This is, I don't know if you can see this from here, but this whole entire bookshelf is nothing but grief related books. Um, and that's not even all the ones that I have. And I don't have them all. So, and I just got back from a training, a great training. It was a great training with the Portland Institute for Loss and Transition. And I bought like 5 more books while I was there. So, which I think actually really, for me, is about finding resources. I think having a lot of different types of resources are really important. So here's some of my questions, and what I will do after this is I'll attach this as a link that you can look over all of these questions. Okay, so being a certified grief educator or spec doesn't necessarily mean that you are a specialist. Okay, once you look at the training program that you're that you're offering, or that you're about to take. Okay. First of all, are there CEUs that are being offered? There are some certifications that do not offer CEUs. Find that out first. Okay. Because there's so many grief trainings that are being offered now, you can find some that definitely have CEUs being offered, but there are some that don't. What organization are the CEs being approved from? So it's a national organization, is like APA, or NBCC, or NASW. I know that there are other organizations, but those are the three that come to the top of my head. Is it a state organization? I know that I'm a CEU provider for NBCC, but I'm also a CEU provider for CAMFT, California Association of Marriage and Family Therapists, which sometimes gets approved by for a therapist in another state, but that's not a guarantee. So you definitely want to look at, is it a national board? I think actually just makes it a whole lot easier, APA. So then look at the who is the instructor or are the instructors. What's their training? What's their experience? What's their teaching style? I think that that's a really big one of their teaching style. Is it also, are they more research based? Are they more experience or experiential based? Is it a combination? What's the length of the training? Is it, can you do the whole thing in a number of hours? If you can do it in a number of hours, like 6 hours, then that's not going to give you a whole lot of breadth. But is it hours? And if that is the only training that you're taking, there's lots of trainings that I take that are a few hours here and there, that give me different perspectives. But look at overall, how much information are you getting, and the time, what's the time investment for you? Which the shorter period of time isn't always a good thing. Okay. Is it a 3, 4, 5-day program? Is it a few months or weeks or months or years in order to be able to get through a certification? Okay. Is there any direct interaction with the instructor or instructors? In other words, is it, if it's online, do you get to interact with the other participants? And is that interaction live through like maybe Zoom in a training or a group? Is it online through chat? Is it online through a listserv? How comprehensive, or is it in person? And in person, how big is the training? And are there other, is it broken up into smaller groups? Okay. So how comprehensive is the program? Does it give you does it provide education regarding theories or models of grief counseling? Okay. Because that's actually really, really important. Does it look at past and current research? I'm going to really, really emphasize current research. Is it based on stages? Is it based on tasks? Does it include information about the dual process model of bereavement? How about continuing bonds? Meaning reconstruction? Addressing unfinished business? What modalities are being used? Is it more talking? And is it, are the modalities used writing, EMDR, brain spotting? Is it art expression, movement, rituals, and are rituals and cultural experiences included and supported? How about education on the signs of grief, emotional, physical, intellectual, cultural, and social, spiritual, family? Okay. Types of loss, and this isn't like everything, but here's a few that I think are important to highlight: is sudden death, long-term illness or anticipated death. Those are two different types of loss. Traumatic death, which can include suicide, homicide, violent death. About losses of safety and trust, which include racism, cultural bias, bigotry. How about types of grief? And And I'm going to go back to different populations. How are they represented in the training and respected? How about types of grief? There's anticipatory grief, there's complicated grief, disenfranchised grief. There's a lot of different types of grief. Look for trainings on relational loss, partner or spouse loss, parent loss, and then there's parent loss as a for a child or a teen, and parent loss as an adult, sibling loss, pregnancy or an infant loss, which is different than child loss or teen loss. How about, and loss for children experiencing loss, or teens experiencing loss, pet loss. So are there a rich amount of resources also that are given? I know I really, really advocate getting a whole bunch of different tools in your trainings, because the more tools that you have, the more approaches that you get to be able to use. Often we can't, I sometimes refer to, we can't go in the front door, is that that we help people access their grief sometimes through a whole lot of side doors or side windows. Does it provide support and encouragement for you to examine your own grief, which is a huge piece of being able to be successful with your clients, is take a look at your stuff, because it always comes in the room with us, and you know that. So I really want to find out from you. Please put it in the comments here when you watch this, that replay, and that you and say hi. And what are some of the things that you are looking for when you want to specialize in grief? I also want to mention I'm going to come back next week and talk about more of a grief-informed approach. And there's a few different resources that I want to share on that, but I'll do that next week. So thanks for being with me. I hope you have a good rest of your day or evening, whenever it is that you're watching this.